Welcome to the Way of the Taibhsear. I'm your host, Shenka. This is our premiere episode for Samhain 2015.
And horses, and cool October dawn, bonfires and harvests, the leaves are almost gone. And pentacles, enchantments have been drawn long ago. Long ago. Fairy rings in nightshade, the frost is coming round. Candles in the window, and ashes on the ground. The world is open, from the village, not a sound. Long ago. Long ago. Mysteries and rain, wait for the Morrigan, has ended. Shall be reborn again. Once again. Once again. Once again. Once again.
So what exactly is a Taibhsear? The term comes from the Scottish Gaelic Taibhse, meaning ghost or apparition. So a Taibhsear is the one who sees visions, ghosts, or apparitions. It is the Scottish Gaelic equivalent of the word shaman. Taibhsears are the shamans of the Celtic world. The Way of the Taibhsear Podcast is our way of creating a basic understanding of the way of the Taibhsear for those new to paganism and to nature-centered spirituality. Our order grew out of the earlier Black Mountain Druid order, so those of you who follow a Druid path may find much that looks familiar. For those of you on another path, you may also find that the eclectic nature of the order of the Taibhsear may offer enough that is familiar to you that you may choose to join us for a while on your journey. Our order's roots and druidry are evident, but as we continued to learn and grow, we expanded beyond the boundaries of modern druidry and into the world of Celtic shamanism. The significance of the number 3 resonates throughout most Celtic forms of spirituality, and in many other forms. One way that this obsession with 3s manifests in the order of the Taibhsear is through the first Triad. This first Triad is the threefold path that makes up the way of the Taibhsear. The first Triad is Earth Path, Sun Path, and Moon Path. The Earth Path deals with our relationship to the Earth. The Sun Path deals with our relationship to Spirit and to the Divine, and the Moon Path deals with our relationship to ourselves. The components of the first Triad are further broken down into their own triads. These triads are, for the Earth Path, Animal Wisdom, the Ogham, and Deep Ecology. For the Sun Path, the Wheel of the Year, the Gods and the Goddesses, and the Rites of Passage. For the Moon Path, Dream Work, Shamanism, and Meditation. Those who follow the way of the Taibhsear have found that this is a convenient way to conceptualize our spiritual paths. While there are shamanic paths throughout the world, the shamanism of the Celtic peoples was usurped by Judeo-Christian religions. The vision-seeking techniques and practices of our Celtic ancestors were largely lost with the coming of Christianity. But the Druids and the Celts left behind tantalizing clues to recapturing and reconstructing the way of the Taibhsear. Many of these clues lie hidden in books written by Irish Christian monks, who obviously painted a veneer of Christianity over the older legends. That veneer, however, is occasionally thin enough to see through. Once it is peeled away, we may peer behind it to catch a glimpse of what the ancient Taibhsears may have practiced. By adding this knowledge to the wisdom gleaned from other shamans from around the world, we may begin to rebuild what our ancestors lost. There's a joke in the Druid community that if you ask 3 Druids a question, you're likely to get 5 opinions. Coming up with a definitive answer to the question, what is the way of the Taibhsear, can be frustrating to the novice seeking to walk the Taibhsear path, simply because the way of the Taibhsear is such a highly individualistic journey. So what sets the order of the Taibhsear apart from other Druid orders and other pagans in general? In the order of the Taibhsear, we believe that nature is the Taibhsear's Bible. We get our spiritual enlightenment from what we learn about nature and the world around us. We do this in a variety of ways. One way is to recognize that matter, energy, and spirit are not separate things. Taibhsears do not see the world in dualistic ways. To a Taibhsear, everything has a life spirit or a life force. When you realize that matter and spirit are not separate things, then everything is alive. And everything that is alive can be a teacher. The secret to learning from nature is to accept that not all wisdom is gained from books or words. Various studies have demonstrated that somewhere between 70 to 90% of communication between human beings is nonverbal. This means that only a small part of communication relies on the words being spoken. The rest is in the inflection, the body language, the mood, and the general feel and context of the conversation. There may even be communication at work on a psychic level between individuals. The fact that so much of communication doesn't depend only on the words is one reason that the world of internet chat developed smileys or emoticons. These text characters are designed to convey feelings and expressions that are normally present in spoken face-to-face communication, but that are absent in the text-only means of communication. Think about this idea of nonverbal communication for a moment. How could this idea translate to communicating with nature? If you own a pet, has your pet ever made its needs known to you? If so, then your pet was able to communicate with you on a nonverbal level. Could trees communicate to us as well? If we learned to listen to the trees and learn their ways of speaking to us, what could they teach us? One of the goals of the way of the Taibhsear is to seek out the ways nature communicates to us and to learn how to listen. For this reason, the first activity on the path of the way of the Taibhsear is to find your birth tree and to spend a year and a day with it. The first step is to figure out which tree is your birth tree. In our next podcast, we will discuss how to find your birth tree and how to develop a relationship with it.
Ancestor shining ones, guide us with your wisdom. Ancestor shining ones who've gone before. Ancestor shining ones, may the gate be open. Ancestor shining ones, join us at the door. Ancestor shining ones, guide us with your wisdom. Ancestor shining ones who've gone before. Ancestor shining ones, may the gates be open. Ancestor shining ones, join us at the door. Ancestor shining ones, guide us with your wisdom. Ancestor shining ones who've gone before. Ancestor shining ones, may the gates be open. Ancestor shining ones, join us at the door. Ancestor shining ones, guide us with your wisdom. Ancestor shining ones who've gone before. Ancestor shining ones, may the gates be open. Ancestor shining ones, join us at the door.
At this time of year in the Northern Hemisphere, all across the world, pagans are celebrating the Celtic holiday of Samhain. Samhain was co-opted by the early Christian church as Halloween, or All Hallows Eve. Its pre-Christian origins as the Celtic Festival of the Dead are reflected in the celebration of All Souls' Day on November 1st. This very popular holiday started out as a way to honor the ancestors, especially those who had died in the previous year. One legend has it that on this night all the souls of those who had died throughout the year walked the earth for one last time, looking for friends and relatives to take with them to the Summerlands. This is the origin of jack-o'-lanterns, which were originally carved from turnips and placed on doorsteps to frighten away evil spirits. The practice of wearing costumes on this night began in Scotland and Ireland as guising. Some say that the practice of guising was done so that the ancestors and evil spirits looking for souls wouldn't recognize friends and relatives, and so would not kidnap them and take them to the underworld. Ancestors looking for relatives to take to the beyond weren't necessarily acting out of evil motives. Some say they were just looking for companionship for the long and lonely journey. Since much of the celebration of Samhain was assimilated by the Christian Church, many of the traditions associated with Halloween are still honored by Druids and other pagans at this high day. For example, the tradition that later became trick-or-treating began in the British Isles when children would sing a prayer for the dead door to door in exchange for cakes. Samhain is a time of ashes and fallen leaves. Most of the trees are bare at this time of year, and the rest will be bare soon. As the earth prepares to sleep for the winter, we enter into a contemplative period of hibernation. It's the time to honor the goddess in her crone aspect, especially in her role as the reaper of souls. The crone is the dark goddess who devours the god so that she may take him into herself and give birth to him yet again at the winter solstice. The womb of the goddess is also the underworld where the dead are buried. It is in this tomb that Cernunnos, the horned god and the physical embodiment of nature, sleeps until being reborn with the coming spring. Samhain is also a time for honoring our ancestors. Ancestor vigils are common at this holiday, as are altars to loved ones who have crossed the rainbow bridge into the Summerlands. The veil between the worlds of the living and the dead is the thinnest at this time of the year. So it is at this time that we are best able to peer beyond the veil and call upon the wisdom of our ancient ancestors. As the dark goddess devours the god and takes him into herself at this time of the year, we begin to turn our energies inward and enter a period of quiet contemplation and meditation in preparation for giving birth to new ideas and inspirations later in the year. It's a time of endings and letting go of less productive ways of being and doing in preparation for something new. Do the work of letting go of the past and of doing things that lead to consequences that you don't want. Samhain is a good time of the year for doing magic involving releasing past mistakes and unproductive relationships. It's also a good time to do magic concerning protection and security. It is a time for banishing, binding, and releasing. Since the veil between the worlds is the thinnest at this season, many also choose to do seances at this high day. A popular releasing ritual at this time of year involves writing a bad habit or a weakness on a piece of parchment or other paper and tossing it into the Samhain fire. As the ashes from the parchment rise into the sky and fall to the earth, we banish it from our lives. This is also a good time of year to do past life regressions and spirit contact for those who are so inclined. Samhain represents the third and final harvest of the year. As such, it symbolizes endings, and therefore new beginnings as well. Some symbols that represent the endings in the final harvest would include apples, cauldrons representing Caridwen's sacred cauldron of life, death, and rebirth, jack-o'-lanterns, black cats, skeletons and skulls, masks, and representations of the waning moon. The Morrigan, the phantom queen of the Welsh Celts, is the reaper of the soul. It is said that if you saw the Morrigan washing your clothes in a river on the way to battle, it meant that you were doomed to die. The Morrigan is also a psychopomp, meaning that she carries the souls of the dead to the Summerlands to be reborn. Caridwen, as the crone goddess, represents the powers of death and rebirth at this time of year, as does the Lady of the Silver Wheel, Aryanran. As this is the last night he will walk again until rebirth, Cernunnos is also associated with this high day, as is the Holly King, who will surrender the throne to the Oak King at the winter solstice. At this time of year in the northern hemisphere, the leaves are exploding with colors. Colors reminiscent of this transition from an active to a dormant state would include browns, reds, deep golds, and oranges. Black, symbolizing the dark underworld and death, would also be appropriate. So when you're decorating for your Samhain celebrations, you might want to include these colors. A common Druid tradition at this time of year is the Ancestor Vigil. Sometimes an Ancestor Vigil is held from sunset until midnight of Samhain, and sometimes it's held from midnight until the following dawn. The timing is a matter of personal preference for each grove or circle. Usually an Ancestor Vigil is held by lighting candles for the ancestors and keeping a candle-lit vigil. You may set up altars to your ancestors and decorate them with memorabilia such as photographs, personal items, or other mementos that remind you of your ancestors who have gone before. The vigil is held by singing songs and chants around the fire while telling stories and remembrances of the ancestors. Some watch for signs or listen for messages that the ancestors have heard and responded. Usually after a period of chanting, singing, talking, and sharing memories, there is a period of silence until dawn. In this silence, people spend it in meditation, contemplation, and just listening for messages. As Cernunnos is the lord of the wild hunt, this Ancestor Vigil rite sometimes is enacted at Samhain as well. The wild hunt is the form of ritual battle against the forces of death and destruction represented by the waning sun as we enter the dark half of the year. This is often celebrated with elaborate costumes and masks, and sometimes with mock battles with padded swords. The ritual is the easy way to help the souls of the dead cross over the bridge into the Summerlands. A group chanting or singing is often held after the wild hunt in an effort to sing the souls home. The wild hunt is also a time for shamanic journeying and keeping the forces of chaos at bay through magic and ritual workings. Another ancient and modern practice is leaving a plate of food on the doorstep for the ancestors. Leaving a candle in the window or apples on the ground is said to guide them on their way. When having feasts at this time of year, one tradition is to leave out a plate at the table for a departed ancestor, especially if he or she has died during the previous year. At such a feast, those at the table can also take turns offering reminiscences of the departed. Traditional foods for Samhain feasts include anything from the late harvest. This could be apples, beets, gingerbread, mulled wines and ciders, dried herbs, pumpkins, squash, and turnips. Meats traditionally hunted at this time of year are also excellent Samhain fare. This was the time for hunting boar and slaughtering pigs, so pork is a particularly appropriate dish for your Samhain feast. In whatever way you choose to celebrate Samhain this year, may your feast be blessed by the gods and the non-gods.
My spirit home. Bless the land and all the earth as we are reborn. Morrigan of the night, guide my spirit home. You are birth and life and death. You and I are one. Battle queen of raven wing, guide my spirit home. Bless the land and all the earth as we are reborn. Morrigan of the night, guide my spirit home. You are birth and life and death. You and I are one. Battle queen of raven wing, guide my spirit home. Bless the land and all the earth as we are reborn. Morrigan of the night, guide my spirit home. You are birth and life and death. You and I are one. Battle queen of raven wing, guide my spirit home. Bless the land and all the earth as we are reborn. Morrigan of the night, guide my spirit home. You are birth and life and death. You and I are one.
I am lying comfortably, feeling the energy enter my body in the form of my breath. My breath is a colored light. I am scanning my body, feeling it relax inch by inch as I enter into a meditative state. I will remain relaxed yet alert. My body will remain peaceful and calm as I undertake my spirit journey, and it will be here for me when I return. I am lying on an ocean shore, neither in the water nor out of it, but in the in-between place where the sea meets the land. When I am ready, I will see a boat on the shore before me. The boatman helps me into the craft, and we set sail. As I float upon the waters, I feel the gentle rhythms of the waves rocking the vessel, and I sink deeper into the trance. This tiny ship is my safe place. If I feel the need to return to it at any time during this meditation, all I have to do is will it to be so, and I shall return. As we sail, up ahead a wall of mist gradually appears. The boat enters the mists. As the craft enters more deeply into the mists, my vision gradually fades until I see nothing but the mist surrounding me. I look down to see my hand, but my hand has disappeared. I slowly become aware that my whole body has disappeared. I have left my physical existence behind. I have become pure consciousness. I call upon my consciousness and use my will to part the mists. As the gateway opens, I see before me the spiral castle of Aryanran. It sits upon an island surrounded by the moonlit sea. The calm waters reflect the light of the stars so that there is no horizon. The spiral castle and the island upon which it sits appear to be floating freely in space. Only the sound of the waters gently lapping at the boat let me know that I am upon the sea. The boat reaches the shore, and I step out onto the island. Before me there is a shimmering staircase leading upward into a tower. Above the tower I can see the full moon illuminating the ground below. With my new spirit body, I place my foot on the first step. The stair lights up, giving the appearance of being made of crystal. With each step, the stairs light to guide my way. As I climb the glowing crystal staircase, I engage all of my senses. I note the staircase in every detail. I listen for sounds. I notice the fragrance on the wind. I feel the way my spirit body makes contact with every surface. As I continue to climb, with each step I achieve a higher level of consciousness. With each step, I gain more awareness. When I arrive at the landing at the top of the stairs, I am fully awake. I am fully conscious. I am fully alive. Before me is a door leading to Aryanran's inner chamber, the timeless place. I reach out and open the door to see Aryanran sitting before me in the center of the circular chamber. She is sitting at a spinning wheel. Luminescent silver threads emerge from the wheel in all directions, weaving a three-dimensional web of life. I am now in the spirit world, the place of no place, the time of no time. As I walk towards her, she looks up and smiles. With every step, I draw closer to her. With every step, I realize that there is no separation. There is no soul but the one soul. As I approach her stool, I reach out to take her hand and suddenly realize that it is my hand. I find myself sitting on her stool, and I realize that I am her and she is me. I sit at the spinning wheel, watching the luminous silver threads spanning out from the wheel in all directions. Each thread represents a life path. Each strand is another chord of choices and probabilities. I focus my awareness for a moment, and I realize that all of these lives are my life. I have come here to experience what has been before and what will be again. I allow the threads to sing to me. Eventually a thread changes appearance so that I may select it. This thread is different than all the others. It may be different in appearance, it may be different in touch and texture, it may even vibrate with a melodious sound. However it may choose to present itself to me, I know that this is the thread I will trace. In tracing the thread, I will be guided to the answers I seek. I wait until the thread reveals itself to me. Then I take it in my hand. As soon as I touch it, I begin to travel along it effortlessly. As my consciousness travels down the thread, I gradually become aware of the experiences of this life. I become aware of whether I am male or female. I become aware of whether I am human or some other living creature. I become aware of my age, the world I am now living in. I look around and I see the landscape. I become aware of the things that lead me to happiness in this world. I also become aware of the things that may lead me to sadness in this life, and to anger, and to love, and to pain, and to joy. I pause for a moment to allow the experiences of this world to wash over me and to soak into every fiber of my being. As I experience this world and this life, I allow my consciousness to form a vision of the knowledge that I am seeking on this journey. I use my mental energy to send this request into the world I now occupy, and wait for this space and time to show me what I have come here to find. When this world begins to answer my request, I take note of all of my surroundings and everything I am experiencing. I notice every detail, no matter how small or insignificant it may appear to be. I store these memories away to take with me on the journey back. When I feel that I have learned what I came here to know, I once again picture the silver thread in my mind. As I form the picture, my consciousness latches onto the thread and begins to move back to Aryanran's chamber. When I return, I will take with me the knowledge I have gained here. Presently I find myself back in Aryanran's chamber, carrying with me the wisdom I gleaned from another life. As I find myself on the stool before the spinning wheel yet again, I pause to remember that although each of these threads represents another life, and that although there is an infinite number of threads, they are all me, and I am all of them. Secure in this knowledge, I once again allow myself to become a separate entity from Aryanran. I pause to thank her, and I pass through the door, remembering that I am always welcome here. I can return any time I wish to explore many lives and many worlds. I make my way down the spiral staircase to the waiting boat. Entering the boat, I set sail and return again to the mists of Manannan. As I focus my will to part the mists, I allow myself to slowly return to my body. As the mists part, I begin to feel my physical body return. As the ship draws nearer to the shore, I become more and more aware of my body. As the vessel lands, I exit the boat and lie once again on the shore, on the place that is neither land nor sea. As I feel the warm sands caressing me, my consciousness fully returns. As my soul returns to my body, the sands beneath me dissolve, and I find myself lying at the place where I began this journey. I can feel it all around me. When I am ready, I will open my eyes, feeling fully relaxed yet alert, remembering the knowledge I have gained from the spiral castle of the Lady of the Silver Wheel.
Close the door, keep out the storm. Far away, far away. Keep the need fires burning till dawn. Whoa, whoa, leave my soul. For the cold will come this night. Far away, far away. Frost will form and ice will bite. Whoa, whoa, leave my soul. Whoa, whoa, leave my soul. Please pass me by when the evening falls. Whoa, blessed are we, the hunter of souls we shall see on Samhain.
I am the shadow that calls to your soul.
I can hear
Blessed are we, the hunter of souls we shall see on Samhain.
I am the shadow who calls to your soul.
Sunrise, the tolling bells, far away, breaks the raven witch's spell. Oh, blessed are we. The leaves of the oaken king fade away, feed the seeds that will come in the spring. Whoa, blessed are we. Blessed are we, summer will come with the May on the tree. Whoa, and hail to the Queen, and under the sun we shall sing to call in the spring.
The shadow who calls to your soul.
An encounter with the Fae. I'm at a Halloween street party in the early 1980s. I'm with a dear friend and member of my grove, enjoying the celebration. We have both been on the Druid path for a couple of years, but we are still fairly new to the path, being in our early 20s. The festival is being held in downtown Pensacola, Florida, in the Old Town section. In this part of Pensacola, many of the buildings are more than 300 years old. It looks like a medieval village. People are dressed in a wide variety of colorful and imaginative costumes, and the whole village is taking part in the celebration. All the restaurants and pubs are having costume contests and masquerade balls. Many are having concerts as well. Here in the early 1980s, pagan music is still in its infancy, so there isn't any musical celebration with a specifically pagan theme. But there are Celtic bands playing at the Irish pub. After roaming the streets for a while dressed in our Druid robes, we settle on the old Irish pub and spend most of the night listening to old Scottish and Irish ballads. After several hours of reveling in the music, last call is given and the Irish pub closes. In the exuberance of youth, we are not yet ready to call it a night, so we exit the pub and return to the Old Town village in search of a party. At this late hour, most of the parties are closing down, but we see light coming from the side alley and decide to investigate. As we round the corner, we see an older building with a crowd gathered out front. The entrance to the building is illuminated by two gas-lighted lanterns framing the door. The door is open, so we walk in. The doorman informs us that this is a private party, so we turn to leave. But as we turn, a dark-haired woman whispers something in the doorman's ear. After she speaks to him, he turns again to us and invites us in. We walk into the bar, taking our seats, and order a couple of ales. As we sip our beers, we look around the room. Everyone attending this party is in costume. For some reason, they are all dressed as fairies. These are some of the most elaborate and detailed costumes we have ever seen. They are of such a quality that for a moment we speculate as to whether we might have wandered into a movie set by accident. As we are pondering this question, the attractive dark-haired woman who invited us in walks up and sits on the bar stool between us. She doesn't introduce herself. Instead, she asks us about our costumes. We explain that they are druid robes, and she smiles and begins flirting with both of us. After a few minutes of this flirtation, she kisses my friend, then kisses me. As she kisses us both, I notice that there is a wedding ring on her hand. I begin to feel uneasy, and I ask her if she's married. She says that yes, she is, and points to a rather large gentleman at the end of the bar, saying, "That's my husband." I'm almost afraid to look to the end of the bar, expecting to see an expression of rage on this gentleman's face. When I finally do look in the direction of him, I see no anger on his face. Instead, he is smiling. The absurdity of the situation hits me. At the end of the bar is a giant man dressed as a fairy, smiling while his wife flirts with and kisses two strangers. This thought unsettles me even more, and my unease continues to grow. I look over to the next stool, where my friend is engaged in another passionate kiss with the fairy woman. And then I look again to her husband at the end of the bar, only to see him laughing this time while my friend kisses his wife. Finally, my friend and the fairy woman end their embrace, and she gets up to go to the bathroom. My friend tells me that she has invited us to come home with her for the night. Although the fairy woman looks to be about 10 years older than we are at the time, appearing to be in her mid to early 30s, she is still more attractive than most of the women our age. Such an offer might seem like a dream come true for a couple of young men in their early 20s, but for some reason my intuition is telling me that this would be a bad idea. While she is in the bathroom, I turn to my friend and tell him we should leave. He doesn't want to go, so it takes a bit of convincing on my part. I tell him that it's nearly dawn and I have to work in the morning. He finally agrees, and we leave this little pub before she returns. As we exit, we see the first rays of sunlight appearing over Escambia Bay, and we make our way home. The next day, my friend calls me. He's enamored of this fairy woman and wants to return to the little pub at the end of the alley. After quite a bit of cajoling, he convinces me to return to the pub that afternoon. We arrive at Old Town and walk down the alley. When we get to the little pub, we are amazed to see that its windows are covered with newspapers. And these are not new newspapers. They're yellowed and faded, and the dates on the mastheads show that some of the newspapers are over a decade old. We check all the windows hoping to catch a glimpse of the inside of the pub, and finally find one window where the newspaper has partially fallen. We look through the window. What we see is a large empty room in a state of disrepair. The huge oak bar we sat at the previous night is no longer there. The floors are covered in dust. There are cobwebs in all the corners. There are no tables or chairs, no pictures on the walls. It is, for all intents and purposes, an old abandoned building. We look at each other in amazement. Thinking that we may have wandered down the wrong alley, we backtrack and check any other alley that even remotely looks like the correct one. But none of the other streets have any buildings that look like the pub. Thus bewildered, we get back into the car and leave. Since that night many years ago, I have often wondered what really happened that night. I've also wondered what might have happened had we taken the fairy woman up on her offer and followed her home. Now that I am older, looking back on that evening, I know that these are questions that may never be answered. For now, I just note it as an encounter with the Fae. You've been listening to The Way of the Taibhsear on IPR, International Pagan Radio, where it's all pagan all the time. The Way of the Taibhsear is sponsored by the Order of the Taibhsear. Learn more about us at taibhsear.com. That's spelled TAIBHSEAR.com. Music for this episode included Saw One Long Ago, Ancestor Chant, and To the Morrigan by Taibhsear from the album Tears Upon the Water, available at iTunes, Amazon, and most major media outlets. The song Samhain Eve by Dave the Bard is used by permission. You can learn more about Dave's music at paganmusic.co.uk. We'd love to hear listener feedback. Get in touch with us by emailing us at podcast@taibhsear.com. Again, that spelling is TAIBHSEAR. If your Grover Circle has an upcoming event and you'd like to hear us feature it on the podcast, let us know. The Way of the Taibhsear is a weekly podcast. Get your announcement to us at least 2 weeks prior to the event, and we'll try to announce it for you. The Way of the Taibhsear is a podcast about Druidry and paganism as practiced by the Order of the Taibhsear. Paganism is a wide and diverse community, and we don't claim to speak for all pagans. If you have a differing opinion, feel free to get in touch with us, and we can share your comments with our listening audience. We're always looking for interesting guests and topics. If you have a topic you'd like to hear about, or if you're interested in being a guest on the show, please email us at podcast@taibhsear.com. Until next time, blessings of the ancestors.